All right, welcome. So, has your consistency tapered off a little bit here and there, or have you just been unable to get into a real consistent flow where you keep up on everything you've dedicated yourself to doing for at least a month to 3 months? For those of you who can't stay consistent or can't even really get consistent, this video is perfect for you. This video is how to get consistent again, specifically for those who were consistent at a certain point and just seem to have fallen off randomly. This video is exactly for you. This is why you're inconsistent in the first place, why you can't develop and maintain consistency, and then we'll teach you how to build back your consistency and how to maintain it over a long period of time. And then I have a couple tools, just mindset and identity shifts, in order to be able to maintain this over a long period of time. So for those of you guys who want to transform your lives with self-improvement and who need better and more quality education on how to do so, I have a program called the Academy of Self-Mastery, where I'm going to be teaching everybody inside exactly how they can transform their lives through self-improvement, how to create an optimal routine to make sure that they're making the most progress, how to remove the stimulation and the addictions in their life that's blocking them and distracting them from their goals, and how you can optimize your lifestyle for making more progress, being more productive, and just becoming the absolute best version of yourself overall. Mastering the human vessel, or mastering the self, is a good way to view it. That's something you guys want to learn how to do, or if it's something you're interested in doing, go ahead and go to my Instagram. It's the first link in the description, and you can send me a DM asking for early access to the Academy of Self-Mastery program. Everybody who asks for early access will get a discounted price, and they'll be able to get access to the full program for less than what it will be when it's released publicly. So if that's something you're interested in, you want to gain early access to courses and one-on-one calls, weekly one-on-one calls, go ahead and send me that DM on Instagram and I'll get you sorted. So 9 months ago, October 2024, I was making YouTube content, I was working on my business, and that was my main focus. I had just left my previous job to go all in on YouTube, and I was just focusing on building my business, essentially building my YouTube, and that was about it. I had kind of fallen off most of my self-improvement habits at this time and totally 100% focused on YouTube, which was a pretty big mistake in my journey, if I'm not gonna lie. But very quickly, I realized how much of a mistake it was. My consistency was there because I was waking up in the morning and I was going straight here and I was just recording and writing scripts all day. But what happened was I wasn't working out and training. My diet was good, but not great. And really, it was literally just like beef and rice every day, maybe twice a day. And if not twice a day, once a day. And that was my diet. That's what I ate. Which obviously isn't the worst in the world, but where's the fruit? Where's the vegetables? And where's the volume, right? Like just once a day eating steak and rice is not going to get you what you need. Now my diet is very, very clean. I eat steaks almost twice every day, but if not twice, at least every day. I ate a lot of ground beef. I ate a lot of fruit, ton of fruit. Let me put you guys on real quick. I know this is off topic, but yellow mangoes, key. But my diet wasn't like it is now. My fitness wasn't like it is now. I wasn't training. I was not in the gym. I wasn't even doing any basic activities. I wasn't playing any sports for fun. My free time was just spent writing scripts, basically. My free time was spent either writing scripts or just crashing out on the bed and waiting until the next time I was ready to go work. And so it was literally just work and then nothing else, right? That's where I'd found myself. And I realized very quickly that my consistency was there with the YouTube stuff, but I was not consistent in anything else. And most importantly, my productivity started to taper off at a certain point. And not even just my productivity, I was producing a lot, quantity-wise, but I noticed the quality dropping, and that's what made me make the change, right? Because I felt as though the quality was there because all of my energy was focused on YouTube. But at the point when my the quality of my channel started to drop, the quality of my YouTube videos started to drop, that's when I realized that there needed to be a change made in order to see through this goal, right? I couldn't actually break through the barriers of my goal because, well, the blockage I had now was that it was the only thing I was doing, right? A lot of people say that in order to be successful, you need to be 100% all in, focused on what you're doing. And that is true to a certain extent, but no matter how focused you are on your business, there's always going to be free points in the day. There's always going to be extra time. And so what you choose to do with that extra time will determine how much quality you'll be able to get out of your work bouts. So I had realized that the quality of my videos started to decline. And so what I did was I realized I needed to find a way to redevelop my self-improvement habits, right? Basically start from scratch is what I did. I said, all right, I'm gonna scratch everything and I'm gonna start over completely. I'm gonna basically treat myself as a beginner in self-improvement, treat myself as if I'm one of my clients, and go from where I am now to where I actually realistically wanna be. And that's where I am now, right? For the last probably 4 or 5 months, I've been completely focused on my goals. I've been able to train and work on my business. I've been able to produce more content than I've ever made before, and some of the best content I've ever made before, and it is just getting started. I promise you guys, there's a lot of really big things coming for the channel. And yeah, I have a lot of longer form scripts that are basically going to be full courses, and I have a lot of them ready to go. So those are things that I've been working on. Those are projects I've been building in the background. I have my courses I've been developing. I have the other project, the Academy of Self-Mastery, that I've been working on for a very long time, because I've been working on it for a while, but I haven't like really just gone in and put it all together because I want to do it correctly. I want to do it right. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been working on making sure I develop all of the right courses for it, structure it correctly, and the calls will be also structured very well. But so that's what I've been able to work on and build and develop while doing my self-improvement stuff, while staying consistent on my recovery work. I do a lot of yoga. I do plyometrics to build explosive strength and athleticism. Like plyometrics are good for mobility and explosiveness and just overall athleticism. If you want to increase your vertical jump, plyometrics are great. So I'm working on a combination of those two things, right? Mobility and explosive strength, as well as like stability within yoga. And I'm working on meditation. I'm working on reading more books. I've been working on writing more as well. Specifically, you'll see in the thumbnail for my habit video, I have a notebook in the thumbnail, but that notebook, I just bought it at Walmart the other day. And I have like 5 notebooks that are empty that are waiting to be used, but for some reason I just felt like I needed a new one. And I started writing in this one because it's been a while since I've really like sat down and journaled other than within my morning routine. So now I have this notebook to just write notes out throughout the day. And I've been working on doing that a lot more because I find that it helps a lot with the YouTube videos when I'm writing in my spare time, in my free time. So that was one thing I picked up, but I'm able to do all of these things while staying consistent on my YouTube and my training. Whereas back in October, I could barely do one other thing on top of the YouTube. And so that was just a major transformation, a major shift in a pretty short period of time. Obviously, it wasn't like this complete transformation, but just a shift in my ability to flow through the day, a shift in my ability and my capacity to do more and to be able to maintain doing more, right? All of the things I just mentioned are things I've been keeping up on for months straight, right? And it's not like this quick monk mode thing. This is my lifestyle. This is just what I do, right? And so using the tools that I'm about to give you, I was able to make my ideal diet, my ideal day, my ideal lifestyle natural and just a part of who I am, a part of my identity. And so the reason why you're inconsistent, right? The main reason I want to say that you're inconsistent is just because of a lack of structure, a lack of routine, a lack of awareness of how your day should be structured and how it should flow, right? So you probably have an idea in your head of the ideal day that you would have, but I bet you've never really like sat down and written it out and like really thought through each step, each piece, each block, and like really tried to make each block perfect. And the other thing is you've probably never just tried to maintain it, right? And if you have, probably not hard enough to really see any results, see any progress within that. So the first thing that I want to say for why you're inconsistent in the first place is just a lack of structure and routine, right? So this lack of structure and routine causes you to drift for most of the day, right? Majority of your time is drifting. And so what happens when you're drifting for the majority of the day, when it comes to, okay, I have to get this project done, right? Let's say I have a course script I've been procrastinating. We'll use that example. I have a course that I need to write out and script, and I've been procrastinating it, right? So if I'm drifting all day, if I'm drifting throughout the day, let's say I wake up and I don't have a morning routine and I just kind of, I feel like going and eating some food, or maybe I feel like a shower, blah, 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 whatever, right? I'm kind of just drifting, and then I'm like, all right, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna just like scroll on my phone, or I'm gonna go like smoke something, right? whatever that thing is for you, that's just like your drifting activity, right? It's the thing you do on default when you're not focused on your goals. And for more productive people, for people further along on this path, it might look like reading a book that's not actually relevant to your goal, or spending time writing when you should be working. Examples like that, right? So basically doing an activity to avoid it. And then you say, okay, well, I need to work on this project though. But you're in this drifting state, right? So your brain right now is focusing on comfort, focusing on pleasure and gratification. It's not focusing on the goal. It's not focusing on what you want to achieve, right? So in the drifting state, you're focused on what's most comfortable. And so when it comes to doing work, your brain will do anything and everything possible to avoid work because it's not comfortable. It forces the brain to engage, and that's a step that it doesn't want to take. So when you are just drifting and you don't have structure and you just try to throw random projects in at random times, right? If I'm just drifting throughout the day, but I'm like, I gotta get the script done, and it's like 12 p.m. And I'm like, I gotta get the script done, I gotta really sit down and write it. But I've spent the day just kind of doing whatever. Well, it's gonna be very difficult for me to then just like randomly sit down and do it. But the alternative is if I had a routine every single day I wake up and I do my morning routine, and then I go to the apartment and I record as much content as I have to do for that day. And then I may write some scripts, and then I may go home, and I have to eat, train, all of that stuff, come back here, and then it's time to write scripts. Specifically, that second block is focused on course scripts right now. So what's going to happen is, because it's a part of my daily routine, every single day I show up with the intention of writing scripts. Right now it's course scripts. So that means today I'm going to show up with the same intention that I have every single day, which is to write scripts. It's just going to be my course instead of a video. So imagine the difference between how easily I'll get into a good flow state, get into that work bout from example A to example B. Example B, it'll be almost instant, right? It'll be automatic. It won't even cross my mind that I may not want to do it. It's just like, okay, now it's 11, time to go to the apartment. I have my course, I got it right. Okay, that's what I'm going to focus on today. Same thing with the gym. I go to the gym 5 days a week, weekdays, every single week. So Monday, I have full body. Thursday, I go to the gym at the same time I went every single day from Monday till Thursday. And so now when I walk into the gym, I don't want to hit legs, but I've been going to the gym every day, so I just got to go to the gym. And then when I get there, there's no question. It's like, all right, well, it's legs today. No matter how bad I don't want to do it, I got to work out, and it's legs today. And I've hit legs every Thursday for the last 5 Thursdays. I can't skip today, right? Versus, you missed a few days in the gym and you want to get back, there's going to be much, much more resistance to you going, and it's going to be much harder to stick to a routine. So if you have legs on Thursday, but you missed Wednesday and Tuesday, it might be a little bit easier to cope and say, well, maybe I should make up for Monday and Tuesday, or Tuesday and Wednesday, or whatever the days were, right? However, that resistance just makes it more difficult to progress. So it's easier to be consistent, it's easier to stay consistent when you have a routine, when you have a structure to your daily life, right? The next thing is a lack of discipline. So it's like, you can have the structure, you can create the routine, but can you actually follow through, right? If you said to yourself yesterday, at 9 a.m. tomorrow, I'm going to write that script, right? I have to sit down and I have to finish that course script, right? But 9 a.m. comes along and maybe you're a little bit hungry, or maybe you really, really want to go out. Today, I didn't really want to come out here. There's a skate park up in Up that I'm trying to go to, and I was thinking to myself, well, what if I just go to the skate park first and then, I can record later. But that's inconsistent with my routine. So therefore, I can't do that. I have free time in the afternoon for things like that, right? I have open blocks for things like that. And so for me to decide, because I feel like skateboarding, I'm gonna just go skateboard instead of the disciplined decision of, well, but I also got to get these videos done, right? So I want to skateboard and I'm still going to, but I got to get these videos done first, right? This is the most important thing. This is the thing I have to focus on, right? So that discipline allows me to stay consistent. If I didn't have that discipline, it might be easy for me to drift, right? It might be easy for me to one day, maybe I do show up and do the work, but the next day, probably not, because I'm not going to feel like it 2 days in a row. It's not very likely. I found my like normal, rhythm for when I feel like working and when I don't is I have about 3 days where I don't feel like working, and then I have 1 day where I'm really, really motivated, and then about 1 to 2 days where that motivation kind of carries out but slowly tapers off, and then about 3 more days of like no motivation. And that consistency changes based on like factors in my life, but right now that's where I found myself to be at, right? 3 out of 6 days I'm not motivated, 3 out of 6 days I'm motivated, but 1 of those 6 days I'm really, really motivated. So that's like generally the consistency that I have with it. So it's like, with that example, most days you're not going to feel like doing it. So if you're only doing it on the days you feel like it, you'll probably only get half to a quarter of the amount of work done that you want to get done, or realistically that you need to get done in order to be successful. The next thing is too much on your plate. If you have too many things to do, right, this can mean an addiction, right? This can mean you want to work on a business, but you're also really, really hooked on smoking weed, or you really, really like to go out and drink on the weekends. Or it can be goals, right? Productive things, right? You can have too many productive things on your plate. So if you have too much on your plate, it's going to be too overwhelming for your brain, too overwhelming for your system to make enough sense of, to be able to do each of those things every day. The way you be more consistent with things is by reducing the amount of things you have to do. So the reason I can be so consistent with YouTube is because if I only record a YouTube video in a day, I will consider that a success, right? I will consider that a successful day because my main priority is YouTube. So if all I did in a day was record a video, if I didn't go to the gym, if I ate like shit all day, and maybe I waste my afternoon smoking weed or some bullshit like that, right? Whatever it may be. If I waste the rest of my day, but I started by producing this YouTube video, I will call that a success. However, I will address all of the failures after the fact, but because the only thing that I'm really focusing on progressing in is YouTube and my sport and athleticism, and my fitness and stuff. But because those are the only 2 things I'm focusing on, I would consider it a successful day if I was to just record a video, right? So that example is basically like, if your standards are so high that it's impossible to ever meet them, it's going to be very hard for your brain to stick to it. It's going to be very hard for your brain to be able to conceptualize and understand how you could routinely do this thing. But if the routine is simple, if it's basic, if it's focused and concentrated on specific things, then it's very easy for your brain to be like, okay, I understand this flow. It makes sense to me. I understand what the intention is. I understand like how we're meant to grow through this. And so if it can understand the process, it can stick to it a lot easier. It can conceptualize it, and so it can actually like fixate on it and focus on it. Whereas when it's too overwhelming for the brain, it's going to be very hard for you to actually stay concentrated on it like you need to in order to be successful. The next thing is inconsistent sleep cycles. So if you have an inconsistent sleep cycle, it's going to be very, very difficult to be consistent, because one day you might have a lot of energy at this time, but the next day you might have no energy for the whole day. And then the next day you might be super energetic, and then you're thinking, okay, I have a lot of energy, let me do some work. And then you could crash, right? Because if your sleep is inconsistent, your circadian rhythm is inconsistent, your energy will be very inconsistent. And therefore it'll make it difficult to stick to the same things at the same times every day, because you don't actually know when you're going to be able to do the thing or feel like you can do the thing. Obviously you do it regardless of how you feel. But when you're really, really tired, if your sleep cycle is inconsistent and you have like chronic sleep deprivation, you won't be able to produce very quality work at all. So you should definitely 100% address your sleep cycles. And the last thing is a lack of clarity on the goal and the tasks required to get there. So if you're inconsistent, there's a lot of cases where it is just because you don't have enough clarity on the goal and you don't have enough clarity about the process to getting there, right? You might understand that, okay, I want to be a YouTuber, so I need to make YouTube videos, right? But you won't be able to be as consistent in YouTube videos as I am, because I understand both the content piece, but also the back end. I understand the entire process as a whole, right? I understand the start to the completion. And so therefore, it's easier for me to be consistent because I understand exactly where this task sits in the list of importance, and also the exact process that I'm going to have to go through following this task, right? And so I understand how to turn this work into what I'm actually trying to produce, and therefore I can be more consistent with it. I understand that my goal is a certain income and from a specific type of business model, right? I don't want to just make a bunch of money scamming people. I want to make a valuable product that's going to help people transform their lives, and I want to make a certain amount of money from that product, right? And so that specific goal allows me to be like, okay, well, the tasks required are to record a lot of really high quality YouTube videos, to make a lot of high quality scripts, right? To learn how to write well, right? Word things well, speak clearly, learn in general, right? Learn the information that I'm trying to teach, right? So all of these things, it gives me such clarity on what needs to be done and what doesn't need to be done, that it's very easy to just do the things, right? Because I understand that this is an essential step, an essential piece, and therefore it makes sense for me to commit to doing it. Versus someone who may not understand, you may be able to record a YouTube video, but you won't have the same energy and you won't be able to do it on a consistent basis because you don't understand the process. So building back your consistency. How do we actually build back your consistency, right? The first thing is to clearly define your goal. You have to know exactly what it is you're going for before you can go after it, right? You have to know exactly what you're trying to achieve before you can even take steps towards it, right? So you can't expect to be consistent on the steps if you don't even know what the steps are, because you don't even know what the goal is, right? So you have to define your goal. Then create a daily routine that optimizes for that goal, right? So then you have to create an actual daily structure, a daily routine, a daily process for how you can go and achieve that goal. And now, the easiest way to do this, I like Google Calendar. Literally just go on Google Calendar and create different blocks. Start with your morning routine in the morning and then go from there, right? I like to do the morning routine, deep work, breakfast. And then from there, like that's my morning block. That's when I start my day, is after breakfast, right? So I've already gotten the majority of my work done before breakfast time. I eat my breakfast and then I usually have to go train from there and stuff like that. So create your daily routine that is specifically optimizing for your goals, right? So my goal is to create the business model I'm working towards and to progress in my sport by the end of the off season. Then clearly define the steps you need to take in order to achieve your goal, right? So this is different from the daily routine. This is clearly define the actual steps, right? So I'm basically openly explaining what I'm doing with YouTube and my process with YouTube. So I'll use that example. The steps I need to take in order to achieve my goal in my income is to grow the YouTube channel, right? Build up a bigger following base, but specifically create content for the type of person that would want my program, right? Not creating content for views, but creating content to attract a specific type of person, and then grow the channel with that, right? So not grow to 1,000 subscribers when only 10 of them watch me, but grow to 1,000 subscribers when 750 of them watch me. But essentially creating a following base of people who are actually dedicated to this information, not just a following base of people who want cheap dopamine and stimulation. So that's the first step, is to grow the channel. The next step is to create the courses, right? Build out all of the scripts, record all the videos, rewatch them all, and make sure they're up to par with what I want to be teaching, and that they teach the information in a concise and structured manner. And then get the courses together, upload the courses onto the community page, build the community page, schedule the weekly calls, launch the community, and work within the community to help make sure that the community grows and that everybody that joins it is making progress and that is getting out of it what they intended. So those are the steps in order to achieve my goal, right? That's the process, right? And so how do I achieve that process? Well, those things that I just said are the work that I'm doing within each of the work blocks in my daily schedule. So then the next thing is to focus on repetition over intensity until it becomes automatic, right? So you don't want to focus on intensity, right? I've just gotten back into recording about a month ago. I went very long without recording any content and uploading any content, and as much of a mistake as it was, I had to bounce back. I had to find a way to recover. And so what I did was I started recording again. But I didn't have the muscle developed anymore. Atrophy. When you don't lose something, when you don't use it, you lose it, right? So that's essentially what happened with my YouTube skill. I went from recording 9 videos in like 3-hour blocks of the day to not being able to record any videos anymore. And so now what I had to do is I had to basically start over. My first work block that I had in this new schedule, I couldn't even record a video. I had to come up here and just write script. And the next day I recorded a raw thoughts video because it takes a little bit less to record those videos than it does these ones. And then I slowly worked my way up to recording 1 video again. And that's the consistency I've kept up on. That's where my threshold is at. I can do 1 video every single day for the rest of my life. That's easy. So if I just focus on the repetition here, well, right now, actually, it's funny. Today, I'm at a point where I'm considering recording an extra video, just because I want to get more out before I have a trip coming up. So I'm just trying to optimize for that. But now, because I've had the repetitions for long enough, I'm at a point where I can increase the intensity and it won't be such a burden. I could record 3 or 4 videos today and it won't crash me to the point I can't record again tomorrow. You know what I mean? So there is that. You want to focus on repetition to build the consistency up, and then you can focus on intensity. So then you can increase intensity in order to produce more, right? But just by focusing on repetition, you build the consistency, and so it becomes automatic to do it. Then once it becomes automatic to show up and do it, then you can focus on increasing the intensity. Now, the next thing is a mindset shift, all right? So I just want you to think about focusing on this as a full transformation. It's not a way to get quick gratification of achieving your goal, right? You have to enjoy the process. And what this means is the reason a lot of people aren't consistent is just because they don't really want to do the work. They want the goal, right? They want the gratification of achieving the goal. They don't really want to do the work, right? They don't want what is involved in getting to that point. And so therefore, when it comes to actually doing the work, they oftentimes can't keep up on the consistency because that's not really what they're looking to do. They're looking for the gratification of achieving the goal. But all goals are just like images in the sky meant to like drive us towards evolution and growth, right? We're not actually really ever meant to grasp having the goal. We're always and only ever meant to grasp the process of progression and growth. And so you have to just fall in love with that process, right? I'm not attached to my goal. I have like zero care in the world for my goal, right? I could be living with no money and I would be fine. I would be happy, right? I think I've done enough of the spiritual work to be completely and utterly satisfied with nothing. But I still want to achieve things in my life. I still want to become a better version of myself. I still want to evolve. So I set these goals because I see it as valuable to grow and develop myself in this way. I see it as valuable to create the business I'm creating and put that out into the world. And so I see value in the process. I see value in the progression. I see value in the growth that can come about as a result of it, not so much value in the goal itself, right? So yes, if I achieve the goal, I'll be happy. But if I don't achieve the goal, I will never consider this to be a waste of my time either, because I'm focused on the growth and the progression within the process, not the end goal itself. Because I've said this many times on my channel before, once I hit my goal, I'm just going to set a higher goal and keep going. There's no point where I'm just going to be satisfied and ready to give up and quit. My real goal is to just keep doing this, right? My real goal is to just keep progressing and taking this further. So therefore, by achieving my monetary goal, I'm not done. I haven't completed anything, right? So really, I'm just going to change it and set it a little bit higher, which will force me to grow even more. Does that make sense? Not trying to focus on getting the 10K a month and that's my satisfaction. That's where I'm happy, right? I will be happy hitting that goal because it means I've grown enough to get to that point. So the last thing is identifying with who you're becoming and focus on constantly reinforcing that identity, right? If you focus on identity change, it makes the rest of this so much easier, because if your identity is that of an entrepreneur, it is going to be natural for you to just do the work, right? That is going to be your natural state. That is going to be who you are. And so if you focus on constantly reinforcing this identity, what will happen is you will end up doing the repetitions while focusing on this identity change, this transformation. And so those repetitions will build up a new version of who you are, a new identity for who you are. And so you'll be able to believe in your ability to do these things more and more as that time goes on. And so you won't doubt yourself and you will identify with the process. And so therefore you will constantly stick to the process. If it becomes a part of who you are and you become attached to the process, right? You can't be separated from it. You can't be broken away from it, right? Any and all mistakes or things that may drive you or direct you off that path, even if they are successful in directing you off that path, you will return right back to it. Just like for how it feels right now, trying to change your life and become successful when you're not in that place now, every step you take towards that road seems like it brings you right back to your current identity, right? So if you change that current identity, your default to be brought back to is going to be your productive routine, your productive day, the best version of yourself, instead of the opposite. And so that is all I have for you guys in this video. If you enjoyed, go ahead and subscribe, click the like button. And if you guys want one-on-one coaching from me and you want to transform your lives through self-improvement, you can go ahead and click the link in my description. And if you want to join the Academy of Self-Mastery, I'm telling you, early access is such a good deal. Go ahead and send me a DM and I will get you sorted there. But other than that, that's all I got for you guys, and I'm out of here. Peace.